So people ask, how did you come up with the invention of Britegums? And the answer is that this was 100% driven by patient demand. What happened was that I had a patient come to me who had a high smile line. She had a gummy smile, and she also had multifocal pigmented gingiva. What she said to me is she didn't like the color of her gums. What I told her back was that we could do aesthetic crown lengthening. Now, I didn't necessarily answer her real concern, did I? Because she said, I don't like the color of my gums because they're blotchy. But I said she had short teeth and she was a long, slender woman who was into fashion. And I said, well, I can make less gum show if I expose your teeth to their proper ratio. And so we did that, and she healed. And then she came back and she said, I love my new smile, but I don't like the color of my gums. And I looked at her and I said, well, listen, your gums are healthy. There's nothing wrong with your gums. The way that they are presenting is from your mom and your dad. It's just genetic. There's nothing we can do about it in the industry. And what happened at that moment is that I saw hope leave her eyes. I saw her body language say to me, yeah, so there's nothing. His shoulders went down, head went down, and she seemed unhappy. And so after reading those nonverbals, I immediately said, listen, let me look in the literature to see if there's anything out there that I can find for you, okay? And she said, okay. Well, at that time, there turns out that we had recently purchased a new piece of equipment. And the new piece of equipment was a surgical device called a radiosurge, which uses radio energy to cut. And the reason we'd got it is that we were planning on doing frenectomies on children. And so my wife was working towards early interventions for airway with children. And she says to me, and I do the surgeries, she says, I want you to cut on children. And I said, that's fine, but I want to buy this radio surge that I saw a number of years ago at the trade show in order to be efficient with that and have very little bleeding. And she said, do it. So I had recently purchased my first radio surge. And in the process of researching the radio surge, I stumbled across a surgeon who was removing moles. They were removing moles off of people, off of aesthetic locations, like a mole off the forehead or the cheek or something. And they were having good success with it. So what I did is I started to do some research about what's the difference between focal or multifocal pigmented gingiva and the presentation of a mole on someone's skin. And I really didn't see a whole lot of difference. So I came back to the patient a number of weeks later and I said to her, listen, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I may be able to repurpose this radio energy into a brush type action that might be able to solve your problem. And I said, would you like to just do a small area in the back here and see how it goes? And she said, yes. Well, we did the procedure. It only took a few moments to do it. And when she came back a couple of weeks later, her gums were pink. And I said, wow, that's pretty interesting. I said, would you like to do this area? And she says, yes. So we did the area. She came back and it was pink. I said, would you like to do the whole smile? She says, absolutely. So we did the whole smile and it was pink. And I immediately said, wow. But as a scientist, I said, okay, I need to know more about this. So as an engineer and a dentist, I said, how does this radio energy work? What is going on? So the very next patient happened to be Dion, former NFL football player. So Dion is this massive, huge, strong guy. And he says, I want to have this taken care of. He says, I've been struggling with this since about the age of 11. He had been kind of subconscious about his smile. And so I said, let's do this. But Dion, can I ask you to do me a big favor? Will you let me borrow a little sample of your tissue before, during, and after the procedure? And he said, sure. What do I care? Big, tough, strong guy. And I said, great. So what we did is we did a little biopsy before, right after, and then after he healed of his tissue. We went over to UNC and we worked with the pathology department over there, and we did histological analysis. And what we found was shocking. What we found was that we effectively 100% removed all of the epithelium while leaving the connective tissue intact. Now, that was shocking because no one had ever reported that before. We were able to actually separate the epithelium off of the connective tissue, removing the reedy pegs and leaving the connective tissue papilla intact. This had never been done before. In the literature, in attempts to try to accomplish this, they would use techniques like cutting, grinding, scraping, chemicals, lasers. They tried many, many different techniques in the literature. And the reason most dentists don't learn about it in dental school is that they don't work. And since they didn't work, they never got traction, and they're not taught in school because you don't learn about things that don't work in school. You learn about things that work. That's how it works. So nobody knows about this solution. They don't know about it because we invented it, but prior to that, the other ones didn't work. So when we were looking at this histology, we were shocked because of how effective it was. And so immediately we submitted for patents, and we acquired those patents shortly afterwards for the new invention of Britegums, which is to uniformly modulate gums to turn them from either focal or multifocal pigmented gums, so either blotchy or uniformly colored, and make them pink. And we do that by effectively removing all of the epithelium that it contains the melanocytes. So by removing the melanocytes, they don't grow back. We don't have undifferentiated mesenchymal cells differentiated into melanocytes in the gingiva after this procedure. So we're well over 7 years with Dion's case now, no rebound whatsoever. So the literature is also riddled with, if you do these procedures, there's a lot of rebound. The reason that the literature is like that is because the procedure was not effective. In other words, they would do the procedure, they wouldn't get all of the melanocytes. The melanocytes would then generate melanin, and you'd have spots on the gum still. So that's why the literature says there's rebound. With Britegums, there's no rebound. If you do the procedure properly, there's no rebound, which is just a lovely thing. Because if you think about this, at the end of the day, Britegums is an elective cosmetic procedure, meaning people choose to have it done. It's not necessary. You don't have to have it done for any other reason than mental well-being. Okay, so they want to feel better about themselves. The same way you would put on a wig to change the color of your hair, or do different colored fingernail polish because you want to feel different about your fingers. Okay, so it's color. We use color all the time in society to express our emotions, right? It's how we express emotions, through color. If I had it my way, I'd probably wear black all the time. So as an elective cosmetic procedure, it's one that we choose to do to make us feel good about ourselves. So it's just like tooth whitening. All right. So tooth whitening is an elective cosmetic procedure. You don't have to whiten your teeth. You can leave them yellow. But when you whiten your teeth, you feel better about yourself. But what's the thing about whitening? We all know that over time, you're more than likely going to need to whiten again. Now, what about braces? Well, braces is an elective cosmetic procedure for most people. Sometimes it's functional, but most of the time it's cosmetic. You know, typically at the age of 11, mom and dad will put you in braces to give you a cosmetic solution. But if you don't wear that retainer, you will be going back into braces again. So if you look at the two main procedures that we do in dentistry, whitening and braces, as elective cosmetic procedures, oftentimes there's rebound, oftentimes there's a need for additional procedures. But with Britegums, because of its unique nature and its effectiveness, it should be permanent. Now, everybody knows in medicine we can't claim anything's permanent. So what we do in the practice is that when someone has a Britegums procedure done, we let them know that touch-ups are complimentary for life. So it's an unofficial guarantee that if they ever needed a touch-up because there was an area that had a rebound, we'd be happy to do it. But we are not seeing rebound. What you can see at the time of procedure is that if you don't paint the gums properly with the electrode, with the brush, so as you're going across and you're brushing the gums, if you don't do it properly right after they heal, within the first couple of weeks, you'll see a spot you missed. But that's just like painting a room. So, if you've painted a room before, it looks great. And the next day when it dries, you go, how did I miss that spot? Well, it's the same way with the gums. If you missed a spot, you got to touch it. But that's easy. You just go back, touch that one area, and then you're done. But there's no rebound. So it's maybe one of the only elective cosmetic procedures that should last a lifetime. If you're interested in learning more about Britegums, check out the Britegums website and come to one of our courses, and we can make you an authorized provider in your own neighborhood.